Hello, ladies. So good to see you. I am excited for today's lesson. Today's lesson is going to be a really good one. They're all really good, but today we're going to be doing some deeper dives into the self-love place. So I'm going to give you ladies just a moment to hop on live as we center ourselves. Hello, beautiful. Hello. How are you today? Sorry, I was a couple minutes late. Sometimes that just happens. It just happens. Let me pull up a couple things here. Wonderful. I love it. And Amy, I saw you sent me a couple messages, and I'll respond back after this, of course. But we are here in our next lesson, and I'm just curious first to touch base, and whether you're live or on the replay, letting me know how the first lesson was for you, the last lesson, and how are the daily desires that you're writing down and the daily meditations. I know it does just happen. I just want to know how that's going for you, and just as I said in the last lesson, to notice if there's any resistance or any difficulties with doing those pieces. And right, we talked about the 5 love languages and really applying it to the self-love languages, right? Doing things for yourself as well. And we'll really start to weave some of those pieces throughout the next upcoming lessons. But I wanted our very first time that we had together to be, let's start putting some things in place. Some space for you, and that's the biggest piece as we move forward, making sure there's space for you, because you deserve all the beautiful space that there is in this world. And so we wanted to really kick off this whole program with that in mind. So let me know how that's going for you. And for me, I'm listening to the meditations myself. I'm like, those are pretty good. And then the daily desires, there's a few days that I've missed personally, and this is where we don't want to get, tough on ourselves. And we'll be talking about the parts of you that start to get all judgy and criticizing. We'll explore that in our lessons here, and it's okay. It's okay if some days are missed. We don't have to be perfect here, which is a wonderful thing. So in today's lesson, so welcome to today's lesson, we are going to really be exploring the pieces of our past and the pain. Hello, beautiful. We really want to, and I'm so glad you're here live. I love it. So today in our lesson here, we're going to dive into the past pains, really going in beneath the surface. And my goal here is I want you to start understanding the inner landscape of you so that you can understand what is going on inside here, and why is it hard for some of the love that I want to feel for myself? Why is it hard to access? Why is there some resistance? What are those blocks happening? So we'll really be starting to understand some of those pieces. I'm just now thinking that maybe part of my thing is resistance to the acts of service piece for myself. So this is where you start. I want you to, that's why in the first lesson, I wanted you to start putting some of those things in place so you could start noticing the resistance pieces. I intentionally wanted to kind of bring that up to the surface so that you could have some of these aha moments of, acts of service. Now we start to get to understand, okay, what's blocking me from that? What's my resistance? Do I feel like I don't deserve it? Is it clashing with another part of me? So we'll really start diving in. And I know some of this might be new information for you. Some of this might be completely, I've heard this before information. But I want you to enter into all of these lessons from a place of openness and to see, okay, what nuggets can I get out of this to really apply to my life so I can deepen the love for myself. And because there's always, and I've said it before and I'll always say it, there are limitless layers within you to understand and to expand and to love and to grow. This journey never stops. This is why this is part of my life and my life's work and the work I do for myself, because it literally never stops. So I want you ladies to understand that even if, so I gave you all the pieces and I just packed it into one lesson because I didn't want to put too much attention to the kind of surface self-love stuff that we usually hear from all the places. And this is things like the acts of service, the words of affirmation, right? The love languages, the self-love languages that we want to do for ourselves, the, buying ourselves gifts and doing bubble baths and listening to those meditations and, receiving the goodies, right? Looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you are beautiful, you're deserving of space, and mistakes in the past are okay. And there's so many goodies that are going to come through those meditations, and writing out your desires that you have. And you'll notice that even though, right, we read these from magazines and we see these in videos, and I even talk about it myself and say it's, the self-care piece is really important, and that is a huge piece of self-love. That is the care. And for, right, you ladies in the Soul Support membership, we really talk about that as an ongoing basis, doing those soul care things so that you can have a nice basis and underbelly of care for yourself. But the thing is, it would be really easy on the surface. We think that, okay, it should be really easy to tell myself that I'm beautiful. It should be really easy to, buy myself nice things when I want to. It should be really easy to do the acts of service for myself, even though I know it's what will provide me more love for myself. It should be easy to do that. But the thing is, we have so much going on beneath the surface that actually blocks us and provides those resistances and these shields to receiving the love. Because the thing is, as I just said, all of that, it should be easy. It is easy. The access of love inside of you, in theory, in the ease of life, in from our soul self, it is easy. Because if we really look at, so first I want to show you where it is easy to access these pieces, but then we have all this stuff that gets kind of clogged up. It's almost like, the flow of our blood in our arteries. It's really easy for that to flow through. Like our arteries are made to carry blood through our system, right? Our veins and our arteries, all those pieces, and pumped out through our heart and through our ventricles and all those pieces. I'm not even going to begin to remember what all the pieces of the heart were. I took the anatomy class. I got a C in it. I passed. It was okay. But it flows and it flows and it goes. It's like the love inside of us. It gets to flow, but then things start to build up like plaque into our system, and it starts to clog things up. So I want to first focus on the easy flow, and then we're going to go into what is blocking the easy flow of love. Because you, in your soul self, and I know I've said this many times before, but this is where it really needs to be emphasized, that the thriving side of you, the all-knowing part of you, is your soul self. This is where self-love lives 100% of the time. This is where your access of love gets to live and shine from, because your soul self has no doubt, no question, no hesitation about all the amazing things about you. So this is where, okay, your soul self, and I want you ladies to put this into the comments of, what are the things that your soul knows to be true, and what your human self, which we'll get into, wants to believe to be true, wants to access. But again, we have those plaque pieces that block ourselves. So our soul self knows that all of us, that you are beautiful. Your soul self knows that the pure essence of love is that you are love. You are love, therefore you are loved, because that is literally who you are. You are made up of love. That you are magnificent, that you are gorgeous, that you are worthy of all the luxury, all the riches, all the love from others. You are worthy of space, that you have such a beautiful, amazing body that is so deserving of love, that you are shining, that you are light, that you are a queen, that you are, I like to call it the soul queen, that you are all of these things and deserving, that you are enough and important and valuable and seen and worthy. And I could go on and on, right? This our soul knows to be true. Always, 100%, and it never goes away. These truths of who you are never go away. But the thing is, it gets hidden. It gets shielded up. It's almost like, right, our soul is the sun, and we get these kind of clouds that start blocking it up. That all these walls start to come up, all of these resistances start to come up, all of these protections start to come up to block us from the truth of who we actually are. And so many times, yes, all of those things, I'm love. Yes, your name does mean love. I am powerful. I am. You are all of these things. And even in those meditations, as I'm sending you all of these soul to soul, that all those meditations are from my soul to your human. That's the love flow that gets to move through from me to you and in you and from me and back and forth and all of the pieces. Yes, I am enough. I can make my business successful on my own. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. These are the beliefs of your soul self. There's so many, right? That I get to, right? I can run my business and it's successful. I get to have an amazing partner. I'm deserving of that. That I get to have all these things. That my intuition is right on. And that is, right, as we've talked about in other programs like the Soul Support membership, your intuition is the voice of your soul. So when you listen to your intuition and all of the yummy things that your soul is saying, this is your truth. This is who you are. From the second you were conceived on this planet, that's who you were. And even before and even after, yes, that you can trust yourself. So all of these pieces, keep them coming. So all these pieces that your soul self knows to be true, it gets to flow out, but then it stops. It stops. And we start to doubt. And we start to wonder, well, am I enough? Am I beautiful? Am I valuable? Does my voice matter? Is my body such this luxurious, yummy, amazing thing that I get to walk around in on this planet? Like, is that? No, that's not true. I doubt that. This is what our human mind starts to do. It brings in this doubt of who we are. And the reason my wisdom and truth is truth and people fucking need it, yes, they do. You first need it. You first need it. Because when we listen to our soul, we get to feed our human with all this love, but doubt comes in all of this. So it's almost like your soul is coming at it from your center and trying to send this love to you. And then it's also trying to send love from all those words, like the meditations that I sent you and all those pieces and bubble baths and all of the love languages. Like, it comes in, but then it doesn't get to flow through and be this whole flow love situation. There's the blocks, right? Preach. There's the blocks that happen. So what's blocking? What's getting in the way? What is preventing you from feeling the love truth that is inside of you? It's not lies. Sometimes we think it's lies, but what happens is we have experienced, all of us have experienced pain in the past and got handed beliefs from all these different angles and situations that have us doubt what actually is there for us. Yes. So we have these pains in the past and these negative beliefs that get handed to us, and the pains in the past actually create these negative beliefs. So we're going to really break these down here today and in ongoing on the future lessons that we have, because this is where it gets missed, and all the work that people teach and all the programs that get taught and all the coaching that's out there and a lot of books that are out there it's the underneath the surface. It would be easy for all of us to feel the love just by telling us you're beautiful, but it gets blocked because of those beliefs that we got handed about who we should be in this world. So before we go into that pain piece, I want to go into that piece of what we were handed of who we should be. So we just talked about all the pieces of who we actually are. Our soul self knows all those beautiful and amazing things of who you actually are. But then we were told who we should be in order to be loved, valued, feel like we're important, feel like that we matter. We were given these expectations in order to fulfill, in order to get those things. So for example, we've been told, especially as women, that we need to have these perfect bodies in order to be beautiful, in order to be loved, in order to feel like we are worthy of being seen, in order to feel like we are important and that we matter. But that creates this huge loop of energy that is completely wasted, because that is, right? The truth of our soul is that we're already beautiful and our bodies are already amazing and our emotions are already valuable, that everything inside of us and who we are is already amazing. But then society gives us this belief and says, bullshit, you're actually not those things unless you do X, Y, and Z. Unless you look like X, Y, and Z. Unless you show up as X, Y, and Z. There's conditions. This is what's called conditional love of self. Our soul is unconditional love. Unconditional love. And we'll talk about this in future lessons, about mistakes that we've made and not the best things that we've done in the past. I have many things that I'm not proud of, but our soul knows that we are still loved, even despite those things. It is unconditional, our love for ourselves. But we get taught to make it conditional. So society says we need to look a certain way. We need to show up a certain way. And even, right, let's even look at, say, parents. Our parents, we learn different ways of how we should show up in order to receive the love that we crave, in order to feel like we are enough, in order to feel like we are loved. Maybe it was I needed to make sure that I got straight A's on my report card in order for, maybe a parent always praised you for having those really good grades, or you saw your parents praise maybe siblings who had really good grades. So by proxy, maybe it wasn't directed right at you, but by proxy, you learned, in order to be loved, in order to get attention, in order to feel like I am valuable, I need to get those straight A's. Yeah, I'm single, but society says I should be married with kids. Yes. So that is another thing of those, right? The expectations, the shoulds, the expectations, which then, guess what happens? So when that belief gets handed, I should be married and have kids by this time, by this age that I have, or by this age that I am, or else. So then all these negative beliefs get attached to it, that then it's almost like, it's like hand in hand with these beliefs. You should be this way. And now, because I'm not that way, maybe I'm not married and have kids right now, does this make me less valuable of a woman in this world? Does this make me any less important because I haven't achieved this should belief, this expectation that society, which, by the way, who actually decides this stuff? Like, who actually puts this into existence of all these shoulds and expectations? but they're floating out there, and especially growing up, and especially when we hear them over and over and over and over and over again, we soak it up like sponges, even though we don't intend to. And we'll talk about in the future about boundaries and really creating a sense of what your values are and who you desire to be, even in the face of these shoulds and expectations. Because, yeah, exactly. Because we're going to get shoulds and expectations all the time. They're floating everywhere. They're like everywhere. But we get to hold the strength inside of ourselves about our values. But we'll talk about that. Yes, exactly. So we get all of these expectations. Don't should all over yourself. No, is one thing one of the people in my new community says. Yes, and I've heard that too, and it's such a good one. But it's, again, there's those comments though of don't should all over yourself, but then it's like, but I keep doing it. We keep doing these things. And I'll talk about the parts of you that really hold on to these expectations and try to ensure that this happens for you. Because if it was just as easy to not hold on to the shoulds, we would all be letting it go. If it was just easy to love ourselves, we would all be doing it. But then, right, we get all this societal crap, and right, from our parents, right, and they don't know, they got taught the same crap that we did growing up. It all gets passed down generations to generations of how we should be and who we need to be in order to be loved. And that if we are any different than these expectations, then it becomes this kind of internal panic system of, the love that I have in this world, it's going to be compromised. I cannot have that happen. We go into panic, and then we actually fall into the shoulds and the expectations again. Yes, even family obligations, holidays stress me out. That's why there's a new moon every 2 weeks. Let that shit go. Exactly. Yes, and there's so many shoulds and expectations, right? Holidays of how we should be and how we should be dressing, and it's everywhere, these expectations. And it comes from, right, society, it comes from your parents, it comes from, just growing up in school, that we get taught how we should be or should not be. Like, a piece that's coming up for me, I remember in school there was this rule that you couldn't have, right? You couldn't have your shoulders showing in class. You had to, I think it was like you had to have a tank top that was like 3 fingers. You could have shoulders, but you couldn't have your bra strap showing. It was 3 fingers. And then you couldn't have like your shorts any shorter than if you put your arms down. And that was the expectation. And then it felt like if you deviated from these expectations, then there's something wrong with you and you're a bad person. And it gets, it's so gross. And it's all these bad things that happen. So many expectations. And then religion comes into that of we need to be good girls and we need to put people in front of us. This flies from all sorts of directions, that we need to be nice, that we need to not ruffle any feathers, and that we need to look good, that we need, there's so many expectations, man. I can go on and list them up. So I just want you to be aware that there are the soul beliefs, the unconditional love of you and who you are. And then we're told all of these beliefs about who we should be and our expectations. And if we don't fall in line with these conditional expectations of love, oh yeah, in Catholic school, of course, that adds a layer. There's a lot of shoulds in that. Yeah, a lot of undoing, and that's okay. That's okay. That's a gift that we have it for ourselves, the undoing, to expose the truth of our soul within. This is why you're here. Yes, you're in the right place. So we have all of these expectations, all of these beliefs that it's like almost like these commandments get said. I'm just thinking that because you said religion is, these commandments get said of thou shalt be, this skinny in order to be loved. Thou shalt have, a master's degree in order to be loved. Thou shalt not be too emotional, otherwise you're not going to be loved. Thou shalt not, be too sexy and too wild, or you're not going to be loved. Thou shalt be perfect in order to be loved. It's like these commandments get put in place. And we also create them for ourselves too. So this is where, when we have, right, those beliefs that we get handed from all these different places, like religion, Baptist and Catholic, right? That is full of all the shoulds and expectations. You have to do this in order to be loved by your community, or in order to not go to hell. Like talk about fear-driven motivation to follow these expectations and shoulds, when what we want to be doing is not from fear, but from love. And we'll be talking about that. And we talk about that in the Soul Support membership, of doing soul-aligned action. That is love action, not a fear-based motivation, fear-based action in order to be loved. We don't need to do anything in order to be loved. We don't need to have the perfect grades in order to be loved. We don't need to have the perfect outfit in order to be loved. We don't need to say the perfect things in order to be loved. We don't need to please all the people in order to be loved. We don't need to do all the things in order to be loved. There's a long about way to actually end you back at the place where it already exists inside of you. See, that's what such shit about it is. God is the one who made us so shapely and sexy and lovely. Exactly. That's a big one, totally. So we have these times in our past too that we feel like we create our own internal belief system of what we need to do in order to be loved. Because there are two really core pains and motivations that we have as humans in this world, and it is, we want to feel like we are enough. And this gets wrapped in, there's different nuances. Enough, like we matter, important, valued. We have our own different flavors. Mine is, I want to feel like I'm important. This is my word that aligns with me. But it all funnels down to, I want to feel like I'm enough. And we want to feel like we are actually accepted and loved, and that we're not going to be abandoned in this world. So everything that we do, if we don't do it from that soul place, we actually get these motivations to try to ensure that we are loved and that we are enough. Because if we're loved and we're enough, and we do all the things in order to do that, yes, I want to be included. Let me know what you mean by that, lovely. I want to be included. So, yes, I know exactly what you mean. I want to be included. So this is right, motivation. This is that abandonment side of you of, I want to be included because I don't want to feel like I'm not enough, and I don't want to feel like I'm going to be abandoned, because that is like a death sentence to us to feel, especially as kids growing up, to be abandoned and left alone and forgotten and not included. That's like panic inside. We can't have that, because we are pack animals. We are meant to be in connection with others. And if we feel like we are not part of the pack, then we're going to do whatever we can to be part of the pack. Right? Probably goes back to Mean Girls in middle school. I want respect. Yes. So yeah, and that's where it comes to, we have these experiences. So this is where we start to learn these in order to be loved, in order to be included, in order to be respected, in order to be part of the pack, in order to be, right? That's the in order to be, I had to do XYZ. So in order to be part of the pack, or to try to not get those mean girls' attention in school, there was something that you had to do in order to try to not have that happen. Maybe you didn't speak up in school as a result because you didn't want to draw attention to yourself. Maybe you started to act a certain way and dress a certain way to try to be part of the pack of the mean girls, so that they weren't mean to you, that you were actually not one of their target systems. We have all these different ways that it pops up. One of my biggest things, and we'll really be diving into this in a future lesson as well, and we might even do it today because it's coming up, is, for me, I felt like in order to be liked and loved, I needed to make everybody happy. I needed to make everybody happy because that was my mechanism for being liked and being important and being seen, and trying to guarantee that. In order to feel like I was important and like I mattered, I felt like I had to do all these things to prove that that's the case. But remember, we don't have to prove that that's the case, but we feel like we have to. We feel like we need to prove that. Because what happens growing up is if we are not told as kids, as teens, as 20s, right? This goes through all out our ages. If we are not told how to access that inner wisdom of our soul about who we actually are, what we try to do is we try to gain that acceptance from others first, and especially mom and dad or whoever raised you growing up. We try to feel loved and accepted by them. And the way that we feel loved and accepted is by doing XYZ. It's conditional. Unless you had a family member, mom and dad, who showed you unconditional love from their soul self. But so many of us don't get that. So many of us don't have a parent or an adult or somebody who sits us down and tells us that you matter. You are so important. I love you so much. You are so beautiful. You are such an important, valuable person in our family. I love you so much. You mean everything. I love you. I love you. That comes from a parent's soul self, but so many of our parents don't give us that because they don't have access to their soul self. They have closed off their access. And then they have been living in conditional love land that religion, society, and their parents passed off to them. And so they're living in that way. So then we learn to live in that way. And now we're just doing a whole conditional love type of situation here as we live on this planet. Unless we have someone who tells us how to access our soul self and not have to live in the conditional love land. Yes, I was fortunate to have that until I was 24 when my mom passed away. Sending so much love. And it's hard because even when we do get that, and I'm so happy you were fortunate to have that, and even when we do have that, it's if we don't have the understanding of how to continuously access that unconditional love, it gets covered right back up again. And if we don't know how to access it within inside of ourselves, so even, yes, love, even if we have someone who shares that with us, we want to be able to access it within ourselves always. Because then what happens, again, is we go into I need to do in order to prove that I am valuable and that I am loved. That's what you're working on. That's why you're here. So as you have this feeling of I need to do in order to prove that you are loved, write some things down right now in the comments. What are the beliefs you hold right now that aren't part of your soul self? That you have that in order to be respected, in order to be included, in order to be important, in order to be loved, in order to feel like I'm enough, in order to feel beautiful, in order to feel like I matter to people, right? In order for all that to happen, what do I keep feeling like I have to do? Do I feel like I need to make sure that everyone's happy? Do I need to make sure that I'm a certain weight? Do I feel like I have to, have a super duper clean house in order to do the things that I want to do and to feel loved and worthy? Do I feel like I have to, there's so many things. Do I feel like I can't speak my truth and my voice? Like I actually have to hide who I am? This is what happens a lot of the time. In order to prove that we are loved, we hide who we actually are. We hide ourselves, we cover ourselves up because it can threaten that conditional love that we feel like we have to get and have to prove. Not anymore, thank God, thanks to you. You've done a lot of the work, my dear. But it still comes in, it can still pop up. There are still times when I feel like I need to prove myself in order to be loved and liked. And even that word like, we do so many things to try to be liked by other people and liked by people that don't even matter to us either. So sometimes we have to stop ourselves to really ask ourselves, do I even want to be liked by this person? And then therefore compromising my love for myself. No, thank you. I used to be really hard, try hard to make everyone else happy. It did not work. No, it does not work. It does not work at all. We try, and we do, and we prove, and we try to control our external environment in order to feel like we are okay, and to feel like we are loved, and to feel like we are important, and feel like we are respected, and feel like we are included, and feel like everything's okay. But it's exhausting. This is the right, in order to, I need to do this. But that whole process, it's like, I'm even thinking like a mouse kind of running on the like mouse wheel. It's exhausting. It's so exhausting. But you felt like you've had to do that I had to try to make everyone else happy in order for me to be loved. When in reality, it's you already are loved, and you don't need to do and prove and force that to actually happen and to exist. Yes, weight has been a struggle. Also, I get nervous speaking up at work, for example, but I've been doing it more and getting better at it. I'm so happy. And this is, so one of the things, and you can do it, Gina, yes, it does take work, but it is so worth it. It is worth it, this becoming who we are and uncovering and undoing. Basically, our life is undoing all the shit and expectations and the shoulds of who we feel like we should be. It's like scooping it's like poop and scooping. We're poop and scooping it all out so we can actually reveal who we are and trust that that is safe to do so. That it is safe to do so. But I want you to really see that we hide and we cover ourselves up with these beliefs of who we should be, what are the expectations, and that we have these times, and I want to go back a second to the pains that we have had in the past of feeling like we have to do something. And what happens is, and I want to start getting into this understanding as well around these masculine and feminine energies inside of us and what happens in a way of protection mode that we do. So you have had in your past, either once or multiple times, really big pain that happened to you. And as the two languages that I like to see, and it goes in that hand of abandonment and the not enough, but the two kind of feelings that go along with it is you had these situations or situation in the past where there was an ouch or an uh-oh. An ouch meaning that was really painful. I don't like that. That hurt. That hurt a lot. Uh-oh being like, that was really scary, that was really terrifying, that was really petrifying to me in my system, and also it was painful, and I don't like that feeling at all. I don't like that feeling that my body and my nervous system, my heart and my emotions felt in that situation. And if we don't process through those emotions, they get trapped inside of ourselves, and then we go into protectionville, protection land. So let me give you some examples so that you can understand what I mean by these pieces. I also over worry about my dad, probably fearful of losing him too. That fear of loss can be a big one that we need to do or withhold or, think about all these things in order to prevent things from happening. But the thing is, we can't prevent things from happening. That's the control piece, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Fear of loss is a big one for a lot of us, especially for you, right? It's going to bring up a lot of those pieces from mom. So we have those big pains, right? And it can be, right, when we are little munchkins, when we're teens, when we're in our 20s, when it happens in the past, any time in the past where there was a pain that happened for you and or a scary piece. So this can happen so that kind of petrified, scared, that could even happen when, say, has this ever happened to you when we're in the grocery store as a little kid? I did this once where I was like wandering around, I think it was like Costco or something, and I was wandering around and I got lost and I couldn't find my mom. And this is the like, like even as I say that, like my body like tenses up and it goes, it's like the, uh-oh. And I'm scared and I'm terrified, and it was, it was really scary for me. And this happens sometimes as kids, is we have those scary moments, those uh-ohs. And we make meaning behind those too, but we have those pieces of the uh-ohs and the pains. Or we have the ouch that happened. Maybe, one ouch that happened in my past was I had this stuffed animal back in the day. His name was Puppin. He was like my security stuffed animal. And my stepsisters and my sister would always take him away from me. And I remember this one scene in my mind. I can see it in my mind. And these are where we have these images in our minds. And sometimes we block them out because we don't want to actually remember them. I was always wandering off when I was a kid. Yes. And sometimes what happens is if we aren't then reassured out of that emotion, like we can cry, we were scared, and we process through that emotion, then it's okay. It doesn't get locked or trapped inside of us. But if we got scared and we have this kind of freeze moment, we freeze. And then maybe parent came in and started to like shame you and get mad at you because they themselves were scared. And they're like, oh, you shouldn't have run off. How dare you run off? Like, I'm so mad at you. And, if you just, stood where I told you to be, like that keeps the emotion of the petrified, the scared, trapped inside of your body, and it doesn't feel good. Or if it's like you're crying and a parent goes, stop crying, don't cry. Like, don't cry right now. Then it gets trapped inside of your body. We get all these experiences where we get emotion trapped inside of our body. Yes, I got lost in a friend's neighborhood once when I was little. It probably wasn't for that long, but it felt like, it feels like forever as a little kid, and finally found my way back. So that can be a scared piece, and was that emotion allowed to process through? And was a parent, an adult, helping you process that emotion through? Because as kids, we don't know how to do that. We have no idea how to process our emotions through. It's a human experience. And if our parents or adults don't teach us how to do that, then it gets locked inside. The pain, the scary, right? And then the pain. So back a second too, right? My stuffed animal getting taken from me. They would play like keep away with my stuffed animal. My stuffed animal was my security, was my safety place. So my safety place was taken away from me and then like thrown over my head, teased about it. And I would be crying and crying and crying until a point where this happens too. We reach a place of helplessness where we're just like, this is where we turn. It's like the fawn approach where we just go, all right, fine, whatever. Whatever. This doesn't mean anything to me anymore. It's so mean. I know, kid, right? And it's kids. Kids aren't taught how to do these things. But we have these experiences. They didn't even know I was gone. So that experience. So I had one too, where. And this is where these defining moments start to happen. Yeah, teasing is painful for kids. We have all these experiences. And part of your homework, and I'm going to have you go into, is really looking at what are some of these defining experiences of. So there's going to be a lot of homework. This is why I put, big time and space between our lessons. But I want you to be aware of where these pains started to pop up and that where they got stuck in your body. And I had a moment, so you said about they didn't even know I was gone. I had moments like that too, but an experience that always comes up for me is I was playing hide and seek with my dad, and I don't remember how old I was. I was like 6 or something like that. And they had this bed, when my mom and my dad were married at the time, and they had this bed where between the bed, I think it was a water bed maybe, but between the bed and the wall, there was this space between like the headboard and the bed. So there's this space where I could crawl. It was like this cubby space. So there's this crawling area that I could hide into, and I was like so proud of myself for finding this spot, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best hiding spot ever. But it was a really good hiding spot, and my dad could not find me. But I was waiting. So this is what happens as kids too, is from our perspective, right? We start to learn things from the adult perspective as we get older, and as we move forward in lessons, we're going to be seeing things from a new awareness, but we want to notice what was the perspective of as you from these experiences. And my perspective from that experience, when I'm in the cubby, I'm like feeling all proud of myself, and like you won't be able to find me, like I'm such a good hide and seeker. But I kept waiting and waiting. And it felt like forever, right? As we just said, as kids, it feels like forever. And I kept waiting and waiting. And then I was like, did he forget about me? It felt like I was forgotten, that I was not important, that I was just left behind, that I was just missed, that my dad was off doing something else. So I was like, did he forget about me? Because it's been feeling like a long time. But as kids, we don't have watches, but our internal system, even if it was just like 5 minutes, it felt like ages. Probably like 5 hours is the time difference that it feels like. And I remember crawling out after this place of like starting to feel this pain of I feel forgotten, and this doesn't feel good. And I crawl out from under the bed, and I can see this very vividly in my mind. I crawl out and I like peek out the bedroom door and I call for my dad, and I hear nothing. And now that whole, oh my gosh, like he totally left me behind and forgot about me. I'm not important at all to him, he just forgot. So no response in the house happened. So now the panic and the pain is starting to really rev up inside of my body. So all of this emotion's revving up, and then I'm like, where is my dad? I'm like panicking, and I look out the window. I look out the front window, and the front window faced the street, and I can still remember the address of this house. Isn't that crazy, the memories? Well, we had to like memorize like addresses and phone numbers because we didn't have phones back then. So I look out the front door or the front window, and I see my dad just standing in the front lawn talking to our neighbor. And in that moment, and it still brings tears to my eyes, but in that moment, I made a belief around this pain that I was feeling in the situation that I had, that like it just reconfirmed what was starting to form inside of me of like, see, I don't even matter. I'm not important. Like he's like chatting to the neighbor where we were supposed to be playing hide and seek, and I've been forgotten here under the bed. And does he not even care about me? I guess I just don't matter. I'm not important. That's the belief. And this is what gets trapped. So I had this pain, and then this belief got put on top of it, and it traps that pain inside. And that was the belief that got inside. And really what had happened, what I had learned later and what I could see from future Chelsea perspective is he was panicking. He couldn't find me. And I wasn't responding when he was calling out before because I was like hiding in my hidey spot and I didn't want him to know where I was. But he was talking to the neighbor, asking if they've seen where I am because he was panicking because he didn't know where I was. What would have been helpful for me as a kid to process that emotion through and bust through that belief that I had created and was starting to get trapped inside of me, right? We have this pain, belief, and it gets trapped inside, is if my dad had come up. I don't honestly remember the next all steps because I literally, little me is trapped in front of that window. Like I can still visualize that. It's a memory that's trapped inside of me that I still have healing to do around it because it was that painful for me. And sometimes that's what happens. We have layers and layers and layers that we do need to heal and uncover those beliefs because they're so stuck inside. And what would have been helpful, and this is what happens, so many of us don't have these moments where a parent or an adult comes in and, I was crying and I was scared and he didn't come in and give me reassurance of, oh my gosh, it's okay. I'm so sorry, honey. I love you. You're okay. I didn't get that. Instead, I got the yelling, the shame, like, where were you? Because he was so scared and he didn't know how to actually manage his emotions from that soul-centered place, from a loving place, from the unconditional love place. Instead, it was from his own panic. He panicked on top of me. And so his panic of how dare you hide, like where were you, like I'm so mad at you, and all of those shaming things came in. And then guess what happens? The pain of me and my own belief then got trapped onto what my dad had sent on top of that, and then it got anchored right on inside of me. And I tell you this story because this is what happens in our internal world that we don't know is there, and then actually runs our entire existence and actually has us try to run around to protect ourselves from that pain. So not only are we trying to run around to fulfill these societal expectations and beliefs and religious beliefs and all the things that we learn and that we're handed as growing up, but we also have these experiences as kids, as teens, as 20s. It really doesn't matter how old you are. Usually the younger you are, the more kind of poignant it is. But we have those experiences, and if we don't process through that emotion from a place of space for your emotion and space for that uh-oh or that ouch feeling to process through, then that pain gets trapped inside of us. And then the belief gets put on top that says, oh, well, I'm not important, I don't matter, whatever it is that you claim and the belief that you have on top of that. And not only do you have that belief, but you also start to create these strategies to protect yourself from ever feeling that pain ever again. Because as a kid, that pain is so big for you. And this can happen in so many things. Maybe someone yelled at you, someone took something away from you, someone at school criticized you, maybe a teacher pointed you out in class for something and you felt shame and that got stuck inside. Maybe you had emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse that happened in the past, rapes that happened in the past, all the things that happened in the past where when we don't have the emotion to process it through, we don't have the space to process it through, then it gets trapped inside of you. So I just want you to take a big breath, because sometimes this information, and even if this is not new information, just hearing this can be like, whew, okay, well shit, I got a lot of pains trapped inside of me. Now what? Now what? We'll work through that. I promise you. I'll be guiding you through that here in this program, but I want you to have these awareness pieces of what's actually happening inside of you. So this is where inside of you what happens is, right, the pain gets trapped inside if it doesn't process through, right? Remember the blood vessels like I told you about. If it doesn't get to flow through, the plaque happens and it blocks, it creates that blockage, and pain and pressure starts to happen. So we have these beliefs of, well, I'm not important, I don't matter, or in order to not have this happen again, I need to not do that. So maybe you wore some really cute, sexy outfit to some bar night that you were out, some bar night that you were having fun with some friends, and you're wearing this really cute outfit, and maybe you had a few drinks, and then from that, something really bad happened. This happens to a lot of women, that then sexual assault happens. And then we start to blame ourselves and say, oh, it must have been because I wore a sexy outfit. It must have been because I was feeling all good and free. And it must have been because I was drinking. It must have been something about me. But it's not. But we start to blame ourselves and we trap ourselves and we start to make these assumptions of how we need to be in order to be loved and how we need to be in order to not feel that pain again. So is this making sense, ladies? Let me know. I'm going to take a glass of water. So we have, right, the operating system of I need to do these things in order to be loved, and I need to do these things in order to protect myself. So we're like in doing mode all the time. This is where it comes from. And the protections that we have that happen inside of ourselves, and we'll really dive into that, into the certain parts of you that start to get activated in our next lesson. But we have that, right, we have the pain that happens, whatever happened to you in the past, right? Someone yelled at you, hurt you, smacked you, told you that you were ugly, said that you weren't good enough, that took your toy away, that, yelled at you when you were crying, that, there's so many circumstances that can happen. Someone passing away, that's a big pain, especially a parent. Big pain that can happen. Exactly. Trauma responses. Yep. And we don't realize that they're all traumas, and we think of trauma as being the big stuff, like the big ones, like physical assault, sexual assault, emotional assault that happens. But we don't realize that all of these trauma responses, even the quote unquote small ones, I want to be careful to not compare small and big, but this is what our minds do, is we say, oh, well, that was just a silly circumstance. The fact that, Susie in school called me ugly in front of the whole class and then everyone laughed at me. Oh, that wasn't that big of a deal because it wasn't like somebody physically abused me or anything. We don't want to minimize our experiences. It was a big experience for you, whatever it is that happened. And you have that pain that's there inside of you. And if it doesn't get processed through, then it stays stuck. So we have this stuck emotion, and then we have this shield that goes also on top, the belief that goes there, and also this protection, this shield that says never again. I don't want to feel that ever again. And in order to not feel that ever again, I need to do X, Y, Z. The protection strategies, and again, we'll really dive into those protection strategies for the next lesson. For years I lived unintentionally and just running, do, so I didn't have to face it. We cover it up, and these are where our avoidance strategies start to come in. And the avoidance of self, we avoid this pain. So not only are we trying to prove our worth and our value, right? The proving, the expectations and the shoulds, but we're also operating from this place of trying to cover up any pains that we had and try to not have that happen again. So all those things then cover up who we actually are, our emotions, our energy, our sense of ourself. And this goes into, and I mentioned this briefly before, this is where our feminine energy lives. Our feminine energy is the part of you that gets to be free and open. It's the opening of you, the feeling of, and we'll talk about this in a future lesson, the vulnerability, the being exposed, the being seen, the being you. And this is because we want to love the you that you actually are. It's really hard to love the version of you that you're trying to be to protect yourselves from the pains that happened in the past, and the version of you that you're trying to be in order to prove that you are valuable and worthy in this world. It's really hard to just love that version of you. We'll talk about loving those parts of you, but we also want to love the real you. But if we don't let the real us come out because we're so busy trying to be somebody else, and we're so busy trying to protect ourselves from pains, then we're just getting freaking exhausted. And we don't have space for our feminine energy, which is the being emotion inside of you. This is the be. This is your soul self that doesn't have to do anything to protect herself, that doesn't have to do anything to prove herself, that doesn't have to do anything to be worthy. You already are, as we established earlier on in this lesson. What this part of you does, the feminine energy inside of you wants to just relax, wants to play, wants to have pleasure, wants to be able to be herself and not have to, be forced to be somebody else. But then what happens is this is where the masculine energy comes in inside of us that tries to protect, because the masculine energy is a safe energy, is a protection energy, and a doing and a go energy. And we go and we do and we protect and we prove. Protect, prove, protect, prove. This is basically what, if our masculine energy is run wild and trying to protect us, is we protect from the pain, we try to prove that we're loved. Protect from the pain, prove that we're loved and enough. Protect, prove, protect, prove. Whew, that's an exhausting life. But this is what happens. Have to jump off. That's okay, lovely. You can catch the rest on the replay. Yes, but I know all of this now, facing all of it now. Yes, and awareness is huge. Awareness gets to be huge. So yes, yes. And running, and you said too, yes, running and do, and I didn't want to face it. This is what happens is we get these parts activated in us, and we'll dive into those parts in our next lesson, is to have that protection happen. So we do all these things to avoid that pain because we don't know how to process that pain, because nobody showed us how to process that pain. So now we are in avoidance of pain, which means avoidance of self, because we're avoiding our emotions, which means we're avoiding our feminine side of ourselves. And then we can't let this part of us come out, which is the free, the sexual, the pleasure, the yummy part of life. But we can't access that and the love inside of ourselves if we're busy in that prove, right? Protect. And we run away from ourselves. We avoid ourselves. We avoid by, a lot of us avoid in food. We eat a lot because we cover up those emotions. We numb ourselves out because we're trying not to feel that pain. We avoid ourselves by drinking. We avoid the self and the pain that's there by being busy all the time. We avoid ourselves by people pleasing. We avoid ourselves and the pain that's there by numbing out in front of the TV. We avoid ourselves by so many ways. And again, we'll dive into this in our next lesson, but that's what we do. We run away from the pain, right? We're trying to protect from the pain, and then we're also at the same time trying to prove our worth in the world. No wonder we're freaking exhausted. No wonder. And the weight issue was a protection too. Yeah, well, just said that. Yes. And shedding it now as I shed the emotional layers. Yes. And this is where we also want to be gentle with ourselves when we are shifting away from this mode of being in the world. Because when we have lived so long in that doing and proving and protecting energy, it takes steps to release that. And as you said, right, going into those emotional layers. Because those parts of you protected you a long time. And now I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I'm gonna leave that for our next lesson, the protections and loving those parts in ourselves. But I just want you to be aware of these things, and I really want you to do as part of your homework, and I'll put it in the group for you as well, is I want you to create a list of all of these beliefs of who you feel that you had to be, that you felt that was the expectation, the shoulds, and where they came from. Did they come from your mom that you had to be this way? Did it come from your religion that you had to be this way? Did it come from, maybe you don't even know where it came from that you had to be this way? Right? Where did it come from? I want you to really be writing out those beliefs about where you are and where those came from, those expectations. And then I want you to write down, and I want you to create it even draw out a sun, like create a piece of paper and draw out a sun, and write in the middle of that sun all of the beliefs of your soul that you are aligning to, that you are accessing, that you are uncovering and really exposing in yourself. This is the love of yourself inside of that sun. So drawing out a sun and writing those things that I am enough, I am respected, I am beautiful, I am loved, I am included in this world, I am valuable, I am important, I am magnificent, I am sexy, I am all the pieces. And those are the beliefs that are true. And we'll talk about in our next lesson is the parts of you that call, excuse my language, bullshit on those things. The parts of you that say, no, we need to go into proving and protection. So we'll really look at those proving and protection pieces in our next lesson. But just knowing that this is the process that we go into. And I'll even, do I want to save this piece? There's so much I want to tell you, ladies. There's so much. And let me know if this is landing for you and any questions that pop up. And just remember, we'll have a Q&A that's, when is our first Q&A? Next week. So we'll have our first Q&A on the 19th. So anything that pops up, because I know that there are pieces that are going to be very specific to you that I might not actually cover. So we'll have the questions that are there. But this is where just understanding, right, again, that process. I want to go over that again of just, right, we have the proving and the pain. We have the pains that are there and the beliefs of who we should be. And then we go into this external place of validation, this external trying to prove who we actually are and to prove that we're loved. Absolutely, this has been a great session. I'm so glad, lovely. I'm so glad. And I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy. And I want you to as well. Yes. I want you to as well is, sorry, there's so much I want to tell you. Let me feel it. No, I'm going to save that for our next lesson. So write out those beliefs of all the shoulds and the expectations that you have been living, kind of the thou shalts that have felt, that have been there, that I have to do this in order to be loved. So even write that in your journaling. In order to be loved, I felt that I had to XYZ, or I felt I had to be XYZ. I felt I had to do XYZ. And then draw the sun, and I want you to put all those beautiful, yummy beliefs that are in the inside. And we're going to go even deeper into this because it's, as I said before, with the doing the self-love pieces. So I want you to keep doing those 5 self-love languages, whichever ones really align with you, doing those desires, writing those out in the morning or in the evening, and listening to those meditations as we continue on. So this is kind of a little extra boosty boost homework. And writing out those beliefs. And what I really want you to do is pin up that sun. Maybe if it's, you can keep it in your notebook, but I want you to really go back to it, or maybe pin it up, maybe even draw it on your mirror or pin it up somewhere. And all of the beliefs that you felt like you had to be, and feel like you should be, and feel like that you had to fulfill all these expectations, all these shoulds, all these, in order to be loved, I had to do, in order to be loved, I had to be. As I want you to take this piece of paper and I want you to burn it. And I've done this in previous programs of mine. If you have done this in a previous program of mine, and it's so powerful, and I'm going to be doing these pieces too, is we want to release these expectations of who you feel you should be, you had to be, that are the beliefs, all those, the prove-its, that in order to's. And I want to, disclaimer, I am not responsible for any houses being burnt down, so be really responsible and create it, right? Do it outside, do it in a bucket. You can even, I've had ladies do writing out these pieces, right? And we even did this on the Soul Reset Retreat as well. So this is another layer. It's just such a good exercise, and I just always use it, and it's freaking amazing. Is also, you can write it on a piece of toilet paper, and then you can flush it down the toilet as well, and you can, pee on it or poop on it. Yes, can we flush down the toilet? Yep. So you can do that as well. But don't put it on some heavy paper and then try to put it down the toilet, because we don't want any toilet clogging too. Disclaimer, I am not responsible for clogged toilets. So I want, and share this in the group. I want you ladies to share your processes, the desires that come up, your experiences with the meditations, maybe ones that you loved or ones that you thought were really hard to take in, and this homework piece. Share a picture of you flaming up those beliefs, or share a picture of you, putting them down the toilet, and share your sun, your soul sun beliefs that you have, so that we can see and support you in that. Yes. And as I said, I'll be doing the same. And in next lesson, we'll be really looking at more of those protection strategies that we have, and how it actually negatively impacts us and pulls us away from the love of ourselves. And we'll be diving into things like boundary and vulnerability and celebrations and all of these yummy things, and loving your past self and the expectations you had for yourself, and processing through some shame pieces and owning your story. And we've got a whole bunch of goodies coming up. So many goodies. And I know it's spread out. There's a part of me that's like, can't we just do it tomorrow? But I want you to have time to integrate and to live your life. So I will see you next week in our next lesson, and post the things in the group, share your experiences, and I'll see you next lesson. And I'll also be putting a post out sometime next week where you'll get to be putting in any questions that you may have. That is it for today. I'm sending you so much love, and Be gentle on yourself, just even as you're remembering these past memories, these feelings of who you should be and who you had to be, and the pains that were there. Just be gentle on yourself. Sometimes it's hard to look at those pieces. You're welcome, beautiful. I'll see you next week, and have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Bye, beautiful.